problems and they jam up hospital beds because they've got back problems and jam up orthopaedic surgeons and so on. But I said to him, I've invented a posturepedic chair. And this posturepedic chair is so fantastic that no one will have back problems again, and the health bill will be cut dramatically. We'll have free up surgeons to do other things. The trouble is, I said to him, it's costing me $450 to make the chair and I can't afford it. Will you give me $150 subsidy on every chair? He said. I said, what are you laughing for? I said, you do this to renewable energy. You do this to some bloke who wants to have a wind turbine somewhere, and you say, hello, we think this is fantastic, and we'll subsidise you to the tune of $52,000 million over the next 18 years. $52 billion. I mean, this is absurd for a country that's broke, even if it had merit. And yet at the end of the day, we know that the risks in relation to this wind power nonsense are far too great to ask people to have to accept them. And there isn't adequate health studies into it at all. Albie Schultz can't be here today. Poor Albie is not sick, he's very sick. And he's been a marvellous proponent of common sense based on factual statements in relation to this. His electorate is the electorate of Hume, which goes from Cowra across the Southern Highlands and west to Young and Cootamundra. And they, if things go as planned, that electorate will have 1,400 turbines. I might add, Cameron, the British Prime Minister David Cameron, has just had an absolute ruckus in his party room, to the extent now that they have banned Britain all onshore wind farms. I agree. Basically, they said, we can't afford this, and wake up, exactly. Why the hell don't we wake? Well, there are people up here who must hate us so much that they're out to destroy everything we do and everything we stand for and everything we want. Finland have banned all onshore wind farms. But in the Hume, when I interviewed Albie Schultz, and I'll just share this with you because his successor is going to speak to us in a moment, when I last spoke to Albie Schultz, and he has recorded this in the Hansard, so it can be challenged if it's wrong, Albie Schultz should be made to apologise to the Parliament. No one's tackled Albie Schultz on what he said, which is recorded in the Hansard. He said the existing subsidies in his electorate of Hume will total $10 billion over 10 years, $10,000 million in one electorate. In the Hansard, he said, that will equal between $450,000 to $900,000 per wind turbine. It's in the Parliament, it's in the Hansard. Albie Schultz, that's your money, taxpayers' money, so that these people can make exorbitant profits out of alleged wind power and repatriate those wherever they are, overseas, wherever the hell they are, these people come from, to plunder and pillage and vandalise our country. But however, they're being enabled to do it by this kind of money. And Albie Schultz made this point. He said with $10,000 million you could duplicate the Barwon Highway for $600 million, rebuild the Goulburn Hospital for $150 million, set up closed circuit television cameras in every major town to prevent crime for $2 million, fix mobile phone and TV reception black spots for $2 million, pay off the Yass Council debt of $18 million, and you'll be able to hand back all the subsidies to the government to reduce electricity prices for everyone else. That's one electorate. One electorate, this is a scandal. Well, the man who is going to replace him, well, he's not in the Parliament yet, but he'll walk in, is brilliantly credentialed. I'm going to embarrass him. I've never met the man, but he is brilliantly credentialed economically and in terms of the corporate world and finance, and on top of that, of course, is a Rhodes Scholar. So the next member for the seat of Hume is Mr. Angus Taylor. Would you please welcome him? Where is he?
Thank you, Alan. You've taken a fair bit of my speech, but I'll have a go anyway. It's a huge pleasure to be here. I look around at the sea of faces, and for the journalists here, you should know that a huge proportion of the people here are from the electorate of Hume, my electorate. It runs... Put your hands up, everybody from Hume. There's a huge proportion here. This seat runs from here, just north of Canberra, all the way up to Sydney. It includes shires like Burra, Yass, Hardin, Goulburn, Upper Lachlan, all of which have significant plans for new wind turbines. And for many years now, including in the hometown where I was brought up down at Nimmitabel south of here, I have watched the divisions within communities as these wind turbine developments go ahead, and they've worried me for a long, long time. But I want to talk to you just for a few minutes today about what's motivating me to be here and what's not motivating me to be here. And I'll start with what's not motivating me to be here. First of all, I am not a climate skeptic. For 25 years, I've been concerned about how rising carbon dioxide emissions might have an impact on our climate. It remains a concern of mine today. That's not what's motivating me to be here. Second, I do not have a vendetta against renewables. My grandfather was William Hudson. He was the first commissioner and chief engineer of the Snowy scheme, Australia's greatest ever renewable scheme. He believed in renewables, and renewables are in my blood and have been from the day I was born. I'm not against development. I firmly believe that this corridor between here and Sydney has one of the greatest development potentials in all of Australia. In fact, we have some of the fastest growing shires in all of Australia because people want to live there. And I know a number of people in this audience today have come to live in this region because it's a great place to live. They want to keep that amenity. They want to keep it a great place to live. So what is motivating me to be here? Well, I'm watching these local communities across Hume and other parts of Australia tear themselves to pieces. Tear themselves to pieces. Cousins versus cousins, brothers versus brothers, for massive subsidies to the wind industry facilitated by the federal government. Now those subsidies are over and above the costs of reducing carbon emissions by other means. This is not about reducing carbon emissions, this is about subsidies to an industry. So let me take you through some of the details of those subsidies. Alan's already stolen some of my thunder on these. Each wind turbine that's being built today is expecting $500,000 or more of subsidies every year for its life. $500,000 a year. That's more than 50% of its revenues is coming from a federal government subsidy. Across the electorate of Hume, by 2020, that will amount to $500 million to $1 billion a year of subsidies going into the electorate. Over and above, as I say, over and above the cost of reducing carbon emissions by other means. So who's paying for this? Well, the answer is, as it always is, you and I. We're paying for it. And we're paying for it in our electricity bills. There is a sort of a genius to this scheme where for the first few years you don't really notice it. But by 2020, the impost on Australian electricity bills will amount to about $3 billion a year that we're all paying. And it'll be like the proverbial bald frog. No one will notice because slowly the water's getting warmer and warmer. $3 billion a year by 2020, as I say, over and above the cost of reducing carbon emissions by other means. The wind industry will always tell you about what the subsidies were last year or the year before. It's 2020 we should be looking out for because that's where they get really steep. So I have a proposition to put to the government behind us, to Julia Gillard and the Greens government. And my proposition is this. Give those subsidies for the 1,200 wind turbines that are planned in Hume plus the 200 that are already there, give those subsidies to the people of Hume. And we will give back to them the carbon emissions targeted by those wind turbines plus 50%. Plus 50%. So we'll over-deliver on the carbon emission reductions targeted. And then, in 3 years, I will become the most popular politician in Australia. Because with those subsidies, I will duplicate the Barton Highway. Not the Barton Highway, Alan. And how many of you came here on the Barton Highway today? How many of you want to see it duplicated? Right, we'll do that in year one. We'll do that in year one. In year two, we're going to fix the Goulburn Hospital. We're going to fix every pothole in the electorate. We're going to get mobile phones fixed. We are going to fix the TV reception in Crookwell. How many of you are here from Crookwell? Good on you, Crookwell people. We're going to fix that one too. You name the project, we will get it done. And I think we'll have it all done in about 3 years. we'll wash our hands and we'll give the rest of the money back to the Australian people. So that's my proposition to the Gillard government. And it's only possible to put that proposition to you today because of the absurdity of the economics of these subsidies. So what are we going to do about it? Well, if they don't accept my proposition, and right now I doubt they will, if they don't accept my proposition, the coalition, as Chris said earlier, has committed to review the RET in 2014 if we win government. We need to win government for that to happen. That review will not happen if Labor stays in power. I need your support and your help to make sure that review puts the facts on the table to the Australian people, because I have complete faith in the wisdom of the Australian people if these facts are put in front of them. Thank you.